Hello, and we are live. I'm G. Cherry, and this is Below the Surface in the house with my partner in life and crime, Mr. Sparks.
Good evening.
Let me get your camera situated here.
Situate my camera.
We messed things up again. I did it. It was all my fault. I try to get it all together, and then have a technical glitch. I think that's pretty good. Let me check you out again. Mr. Sparks.
You can see me.
I could see you.
All right.
Okay, so we are on the eve of a big vote tomorrow. So a House Bill 5044 is up for a vote tomorrow. This bill, the important thing about what's happening in Connecticut, so when I wear my glasses, I have a glare, and when I take them off, I can't see. But so we had in the state of Connecticut just a few days ago the largest public hearing we've ever had that went for the longest we've ever seen a public hearing in Connecticut go. Over 22
hours?
It was 22 solid hours, right? 22 hours?
That's what I heard.
22 hours. So over 22 hours, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Over 22 hours of testimony happened at the Capitol for House Bill 5044. Basically, what House Bill 5044 does is it eliminates the religious exemption to state-mandated vaccinations. And over 500 people came to testify, and a few thousand came to show up in in opposition of House Bill 5044. It was an epic, historical day. I'm going to pull up this slide. This isn't that day. This is actually at the legislative opening day. And so we were just, lots of people have been organizing. This is a very serious thing that's happening. And now some folks out there are like, oh, anti-vaxxers, pro-vaxxers. Let's look at each other as human beings. So a lot of the testimony that happened for the bill was, it was very diversified, and we've had lawyers and religious leaders and a lot of moms and a lot of discussion about vaccine injury. And when people say, well, oh, you're abusing the religious exemption, that's a really interesting question for me. Like, how can you say you're abusing the religious exemption? What do you mean by that? You're not really religious, or it's not your... I think we've lost what the Constitution actually means by that, what religion and what God is and what all that means. I think we've lost what the founders meant by putting that clause in there. The government does not get to decide that. It's not like, oh, religion is only recognized if you're a Catholic or Jewish or Buddhist or whatever organized religion there is. That's not what the founders meant by that it is the first freedom. It is the very first freedom, the right to the freedom of religious expression. So what I'd like to say to that argument is, it's my God-given right to stand up for what I believe in and protect my children. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I absolutely find that term to be so obnoxious. That's something so totally out of a pharma think tank, quite honestly. So we've got a whole show planned for you guys tonight. So Mr. Sparks, you found a cool I've got your...
you want me to start
I
with
want
this,
you to
huh?
start with that, because I think we should start there. So if you read that to me, I'm going to fill the screen up with that, and you go ahead and read that. That's what's on the screen. So I'm going to see if I can fill the screen up with this, and you go ahead and tell us what's on there, because they can't really read it.
Well, this is it's coming straight from Johns Hopkins. It's a patient information, and it's the care at home for immunocompromised patients.
Wow.
So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but someone did the work, and this came from one of our fellow freedom fighters there. It says, let's see, they ask questions. Can I have a visitor? And then what they say is, tell friends and family who are sick or have recently had a live vaccine such as chickenpox, measles, rubella, intranasal influenza, polio, or smallpox, not to visit. It may be a good idea to have visitors call first. Avoid contact with children who are recently vaccinated.
Wow, that's like heavy duty. So basically, wow.
There's another question that I think,
See, go ahead.
We'll go through the different things that people have that someone boxed out. It says, are schools currently notifying immunocompromised families when fellow students have been recently vaccinated with live viruses? I think that's a question. I don't think they are.
I don't think they are either. And yeah, go ahead, continue on.
Let's see. What's the other at the top of it? It says, should an immunocompromised child really be in the uncontrolled environment of a public school or other public spaces? And then it says, after touching surfaces in public areas such as elevator buttons, handrails, and gas pumps. Now, I think what they're saying is also at the beginning, it says hand washing is the best way to prevent infection.
Hand washing? What a concept! You mean to tell me that you can actually wash your hands, and like sanitation and plumbing and all that good stuff helps us to stop the spread of disease? Like helping our homeless people and not being like the state of California, leaving people homeless in the street pooping and having typhoid breakouts? Yeah, that seems like good public health policy.
Apparently, in the information that they give out, there's a pharmaceutical product, Stelara.
What? I've never heard of that. What is it called?
It's spelled Stelara.
Okay.
And that's the next page of that thing, but I think it's worth noting is they say caution is advised when administering live vaccines to household contacts of patients receiving Stelara because of the potential risk for shedding from the household contact and transmission to a patient. I think it's some kind of let's see if they give you what it is. It's a patient prescribing information for the immune suppression drugs Stelara. It must suppress your immune system.
Okay, so it's probably an immune system suppressant.
It's
interesting.
Used to treat plaque psoriasis. I'm not sure if I'm going to
psoriasis, maybe.
Yeah, psoriatic arthritis, Crohn's disease.
Okay.
So it's something that they give for that. So they don't want you around any shedding vaccines, according to Johns Hopkins.
So wait a minute. So vaccines can shed, and Johns Hopkins has given out here's the what he's reading from.
That's the title. Yeah, that's the first page of it.
And thanks, a shout out to Dawn for finding this. We pulled this off for a while. This is Johns Hopkins warns that the vaccinated are a threat to immunocompromised. And I don't want to pit anybody against each other. Basically, we live in an environment full of viruses, bacteria, and germs all over the place, all the time, every day of our life. The best way to optimal health. An infectious disease outbreak is quarantine. We have that already on our books. Way back in the day here in Connecticut, I served on the board of the Connecticut Vaccine Information Alliance, CTVIA. And one of the things that I did when I was a board member at the Connecticut Vaccine Information Alliance, this is like 2002 or 2001, I believe. It was a long time ago. So we were basically, had to be 2002, not 2001, 2002, 2003, because we were working on legislation after 9/11, and there was a threat of like bioterrorism attacks and all the whole talk about anthrax vaccine. And so I worked with Connecticut Vaccine Information Alliance to allow people, we wrote up legislation, and we were able to have people allowed to be quarantined instead of having the vaccine. I believe it was the anthrax vaccine at the time, but it also covered, what it ended up doing is also covering just infectious disease that you're allowed to have quarantine. Basically what my point is that we already have public health procedures that are available to our use in case of infectious disease. So the way to stop infectious disease is stay home and stay and keep the sick quarantined and out of public till you're well again. This is like basic stuff. So we don't have a health crisis in Connecticut right now. So this is a very egregious kind of thing to be trying to push legislation that takes away valuable first freedoms. These are first freedoms. These are constitutional rights protected. They are protected. They are the fundamental parts of who we are as American citizens. It's extremely important. This fight for medical freedom is everybody's fight. So they're going to vote tomorrow. There is going to be a rally tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Anyone that can be there, please be there. we are going to gather, and we're going to be in the rotunda, and we're going to be inside. There's going to be a rally outside, and we're going to be inside. And I just want to say something to Connecticut and the Connecticut legislators on the public health. Thank you. Thank you, because our process to go through this is beautiful. We had a real hearing. We had 22 hours of testimony. And I will credit to all the legislators, even the ones that I disagree with. And thank you, Representative Steinberg, for allowing this to happen. Even though a lot of times I'm like, no, I don't agree with you at all. It's okay. But you let the process happen. And I have so much more respect for you as a person and as a fellow citizen that this happened, and the decorum was beautiful. We had a beautiful hearing. There was a long time. 22 hours is a long time. Every once in a while there are some parts of the night where some testimony gets a little hot. Actually, speaking of hot testimony, I'm going to play you guys my testimony, because I tend to be a little bit on the passionate side. Can we say? All right, so let me see. I'm going to put my glasses on and put my glare on, and let me get my testimony up. I had it all so sweetly organized. So this is my testimony at the hearing that just happened here in Hartford. That was on Wednesday, the 19th.
Yes. So
the hearing went from the 19th to the 20th. It ended at 8:30 a.m. on the 20th. We both testified. I testified at around 4 a.m. Though it was really, really intense. So here's that testimony. My 28 years of being here in Connecticut, being active and coming up to the Capitol for various different causes, I've never been here at 4 a.m., so bear with me. I'm going to talk about Merck, the makers of Vioxx. Merck, the manufacturers of Verifax. Merck, the Merck Verifax vaccine injured my child. I'm not anti-vaccine. My children were vaccinated. Okay? Not with all the vaccines. I decided with my family and my doctor which vaccines were right for us. So we did the chickenpox vaccine, the greatest regret, right? So Merck is being sued for fraud for Zostafax. That's the adult shingles vaccine. Zostafax is not covered under the 1986 Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. Zostafax is about to be taken off the market as hundreds of people sue Merck. My child was injured by a Merck vaccine. I just want you to hear that. Merck, the makers of Vioxx. Why on earth would you force your constituents by withholding a public education from their children and force them to take a product from a company like Merck? Let me also just say this. Merck is being sued for fraud for the mumps portion of the MMR. There are over 11,000 outbreaks and cases of mumps in this country. Go look on the CDC website. There was just some mumps cases here in Connecticut. Where is the media? Where is the outrage? What laws we need are to rein in the pharmaceutical companies. What laws we need is choice with vaccines, because if you pass this law, you're going to force us or have our children be taken out of school because there's no other place to get the measles vaccine. What if we don't want the rubella portion, like someone else said here earlier? What if we don't want the mumps because it's fraudulent? 2 virologists have whistleblower protection. This court case has been going on since 2009. Go try and read about it because they have it all locked up legally, right? But it's happening, and it was just proceeding forward. Lots of discovery going on. This is what tort law does. Tort law protects us from bad products and bad companies, like Merck, the makers of Vioxx. Merck, the makers of Zostafax. They're being sued for fraud for Gardasil. They're being sued for vaccine injury for Zostafax. They're being sued for fraud for the mumps portion of the MMR. Merck, the makers of Vioxx. Why
would you put your constituents in a position to either forego a public education, which is a right? We are the Constitution state. I love Connecticut. I'm going to stay here and fight, but my husband and I talk often about leaving this state if this continues.
I'm going to have to stop.
Thank you. I appreciate all of you for being here. I want to say just this one last thing, okay? I've been following many of the states with this legislation happening. I want to say that I'm so thankful to all of you, even the ones that I've interacted with that I don't agree with. I just want to say thank you because you're all here. I want to say thank you for allowing us to testify because in California they didn't. Thank you. Please kill this bill.
Are there any? So they vote tomorrow on this bill. It's a big day in Connecticut, and I have to say that I'm so amazed by all the warriors in the state of Connecticut right now and from other states who've been coming up to testify. Shout out to Brooke Jordan, who came and gave an amazing testimony and waited like all day long into the night. She testified at like, what, 2 a.m. or something like that? It was like the middle of the night when she testified.
I don't think it was that late because we were stepped out at that point.
It was pretty late. She came up all the way from New York. So shout out to her for coming out and testifying. Pretty amazing stuff. So I have another clip that I'd like to share with you guys. This is, so in our state, we have I call it the three-headed dragon. It's Linehan, Elliott, and Ritter. So, Josh Elliott, who I have a clip of Josh Elliott. I'm going to play for you. So this is a clip of Josh Elliott. He's heavily pushing for the Gardasil vaccine, the HPV vaccine. That is his plan, to get this legislation passed so that we have no ability to get exemptions. That means there's no more delayed schedule. There's no more vaccines that you want for your family and others that you're like, yeah, I think I'm going to forego that. You're going to be subjected to whatever the state decides, or your child is going to have to forego a public education. This is very serious. With adults are next, you're not even able to get a driver's license. No. Is there a legislation for adults right now? No, this is about children, but that's what's coming. Trust us when we tell you. So this is Josh Elliott, and I caught this video last year. The state of Connecticut, there's a little bit of history here. The state of Connecticut has been purchasing the Gardasil vaccine like $9 million each fiscal year. So for 2018 and 19 is about $18 million purchasing the Gardasil vaccine. Our state is broke. Where does the state of Connecticut get $18 million to purchase the Gardasil vaccine? So this is Josh Elliott. He was not vaccinated as a child. His mother decided, she didn't want to vaccinate him. He owns 2 health food stores, and he grew up unvaccinated and lived his life. So he decided as an adult that he was going to get vaccinated. Now he is a big vaccine champion. And his other partner in crime, Liz Linehan, her husband works for Boehringer Ingelheim or something like that. I don't think I'm pronouncing it right. It's Boehringer. It's a German company, Boehringer Ingelheim, and Matt Ritter works for Shipman and Goodman, which Boehringer Ingelheim is a client of. And now Shipman and Goodman, they're lobbyists, and Matt Ritter's father, Matt Ritter has political ties here in Connecticut. When you think about Hartford and you see Matt Ritter and you see his rhetoric and the amount of wealth he comes from, you say to yourself, how is he the representative of Hartford, the city of Hartford? It doesn't make any sense. So this is Josh Elliott. This is a clip I pulled last year that I shot in Hartford, Connecticut. This is Josh Elliott talking about the Gardasil vaccine, because if this law passes, if they vote it out of committee, which it's not going to pass tomorrow, if it gets voted out of committee, it continues in our process. God bless Connecticut for having the process. We have to stop it before it becomes a law. So here is Josh Elliott.
Back to the HPV, we met some families today who say after their kids got that HPV vaccine, their life totally changed.
This is not statistical evidence. This is anecdotal evidence, and we need to be making sure that we're using statistical evidence and not anecdotal evidence. Because whether or not somebody would have had some sort of injury regardless, we don't know because we have no control universe to compare against.
And just talking with parents, do you think there is enough studies on this for it to be mandated?
I think that we absolutely should be doing this. The CDC, WHO, the federal government, in terms of all the health professionals there, are saying that we're starting to see reduced rates over time. So we want to make sure that people are well informed about this. this so that we make sure that are continued.
Your take on the HPV vaccine, do you think it should be mandated
No.
in the schools? Why?
The reason is that the truth is that there's no evidence HPV vaccination has prevented a single cervical cancer anywhere in the world. And Pap smear, good gynecological care is the proven method to prevent cervical cancer.
And what about lawmakers who say, the numbers have gone down with people contracting HPV ever since we had the vaccine?
Yeah, it's debatable. It's a statistically debatable. It's possible, but may not related to the vaccine at all.
Okay. And the effects from HPV vaccine?
The problem is the HPV vaccine may be causing serious adverse reactions in some of the people, some of the girls receiving the vaccine.
Like what?
Myocardial infarction and blindness, encephalomyelitis. In fact, one of the cases was reported in Children's Hospital in Hartford in 2010 by one of the pathologists who used to work with me at the New Haven Hospital in 1971.
Do you think the vaccine is dangerous?
It's
Back to the HPV, we met some families.
Sorry, I had a technical glitch there. I'm not sure why it cut off, but you get the gist of that. So you had Josh Elliott there, who is a representative that is one of the forces behind really pushing mandated vaccines on citizens of Connecticut, starting with children, and it's coming for adults too. But we want to kick this. We want to get this out of. We want to kill this bill. We want this bill to die in committee. So tomorrow is a very, very important day. So people are going to be arriving early. I suggest if you're coming, look, our State House is wonderful. God bless Connecticut for having a State House that is actually the people's house. You can come inside the State House. You go through security. Security, shout out to security. We love them. They're always so very kind to us. We have all kinds of people that are coming through, especially moms with children, and they're sweet and they're nice people. So come to our house. Our State House is open to the people, we the people. And here in the Constitution state of Connecticut, we are fighting so hard to maintain our inalienable rights to decide what goes into our body. And anyone that questions, what do you mean by that? You're taking advantage of our religious exemption. Then they've forgotten what the Constitution means, because the government does not have the right to even ask what your religion is. The government doesn't have a right to even inquire about that. This is insanity. I don't understand. I don't know how we got here. But the one thing that I do see and I do feel so wholeheartedly are there so many people, so many good, solid people that are working hard to protect and fight for our inalienable rights to medical freedom. It's just the fundamental fact, right, Mr. Sparks?
Yes,
I caught him off guard.
No,
I go on a rant. I'm like, nah.
I totally agree, yes.
Okay. So I have another video. So I really appreciate all of the people that came out to testify, and we filmed quite a bit of it. We didn't get everything, and I want to cut up all of the videos, but I may not be able to get everybody's video. You can find them on YouTube. You can find me at G Cherry on YouTube, and I can even post the link into the Facebook if you want to see what we caught. You can also go to CTN. They did do the whole thing, and that's great. So you can go to CTN. So we got quite a bit of footage. So this particular testimony I wanted to share with you guys today, because one of the things that Josh Elliott accused us of being as white privileged women, that it's all like it's just white people. I don't like that. We're all human. We all bleed red. Black folks, white folks, yellow folks, purple folks, whatever. We all bleed red, and there's plenty of people who are not white in the movement. We have black and brown folks in this movement, quite a few of them. That's nonsensical BS, and I'm so tired of it. So we gotta totally flip this, because it just promotes discrimination. And I don't understand someone like Josh Elliott, who calls himself a progressive, could be promoting discrimination. So this is Diana Waller. She did absolutely wonderful with her daughter. This testimony was quite late in the evening, And I just want to play it for you. So here we go. This is Diana Waller. This is at the hearing for HB 5044.
So is Diana Waller here, Caitlin's on the phone?
Hey, good evening. I'm gonna shorten it up a little bit because my kiddo has something to say. So I'm in opposition to HB 5044. As a military veteran married to a combat war veteran, I find this bill appalling. We served our country to ensure that all people had the right to live free. The issue with the removal of exemptions are many. Number one, there is no public health emergency to warrant the removal of this precedent. There were 4 measles cases in 2019. The first 2 cases were strain D8, originating from outside the country. This is from a FOIA request from DPH. DPH also is withholding data regarding the 3rd and 4th case of measles as to where they originated. Those FOIAs are over 6 months old. Okay? We all know that if the additional cases of measles were contracted by an unvaccinated child, that would have been major news. If the state is seeking to remove the religious exemption to immunization, then all members of the Public Health Committee should request disease data for unvaccinated people in Connecticut over the last 10 years. I'm sure this has not happened, and unvaccinated or partially vaccinated people have not been the cause of disease outbreaks in Connecticut. Furthermore, the DPH school-by-school data is inaccurate. Also a FOIA request showing Representative Linehan to Representative Ritter that the schools were reporting this information is incorrect. You can see that all of these documents are on my online testimony. I'm going to skip the religion part that's been spoken to. I'm going to speak to the civil rights part. The bill and the removal of the religious exemption is enforcing segregation. As a mother of a biracial daughter married to an African American man from the South, I'm in disbelief that in 2020, in Connecticut, not Mississippi, not Georgia, not Virginia, my husband and I have to explain segregation to my daughter. The definition, according to Merriam-Webster, is the separation or isolation of race, class, or ethnic group by enforced or voluntary residence in a restricted area by barriers to social intercourse and separate educational facilities or by other discriminatory means. Discrimination is the act or practice or an instance of discriminating categorically rather than individually. We moved from Virginia in 2013. In 2014 and 2015, there was a movement to remove the religious exemption by the Connecticut legislature. Then again in 2019, and now here we are in 2020. These bills are being put forth by a primarily Caucasian Democratic men using white privilege to discriminate against an entire group and class of people in Connecticut in 2020. This is history repeating itself. Our bodies are not for sale. Our religion and worship is not up for debate. There is no public health emergency, and we are yet again in a scenario where a primarily European majority is seeking to perpetrate hate and discrimination against a minority group. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Layla Waller, and I'm in 4th grade. I want to stay in school because for me, school is more than just a place for learning. It is a place to make friends that will help you through the tough times. And please hear me loud and clear because I am an only child, and if I am homeschooled, I will be all alone. Please vote now.
Thank you. Any Representative Hennessy?
I just want to thank you for your service for your country. You're obviously still fighting for it. Thank you.
So, yeah, that was a really powerful testimony. We also have Brooke Jordan's testimony. That's a longer one, and I want to show it in its entirety. So for this video, I'm kind of sticking to shorter videos. We are stronger united than we are divided. So let's not be race baited with this nonsense that obviously Josh Elliott is so without a clue that this is some kind of like white people issue. I don't understand where this guy gets his logic from. So we have a big vote tomorrow for House Bill 5044, and we want this bill to die in committee. I have a video that I want to share with you, another one. This is Senator Will Haskell. Now, bear with me as I try to get this up. I'm having a little bit of technical glitches, and hopefully it's not going to kill it for me. So this is a recording that was captured at a live meeting. And let me just see how I'm going to bring that to the front. And unfortunately, I'm seeing, let's see. So here we go. This is how I do it. So this is Senator Will Haskell. And this is a mom. So shout out to Dawn who caught this footage, and I'm grabbing this off of the internet. So this is a mom talking to Senator Will Haskell. It's about 4 minutes long. So take a look. Oops, let me go in here. Bear with me, guys, as I have to go in here to...
Ridgefielder, born and raised here. My question is also on the same religious exemption bill. If HB 5044 passes, it will segregate more than 7,800 healthy children from their constitutional right to a free, appropriate public education by removing their exemption. Are you concerned that this could cost Connecticut money and increase taxes because the state will lose federal funding and will need to find new ways to educate and fund the education of this newly segregated group of children?
I'll answer your question with a counter question, and that's, don't you think the students who have an autoimmune deficiency or medical reason that they can't become vaccinated also have a constitutional right to an education?
Sure. I have 5 children. 4 of my children have autoimmune issues. It is incredibly hard to receive a medical exemption because, unfortunately, you cannot legislate doctors to give medical exemptions. You can open legislation and say that you can, but they follow recommendations from the CDC. The CDC only allows 2 contraindications for vaccines. That's having already had an anaphylaxis reaction to a vaccine you received, or having cancer and immune suppressants. Autoimmune conditions, such as my children's autoimmune encephalitis, which means inflammation of the brain when they have their autoimmune condition, does not count. Doctors are terrified. They go under medical review if they give exemptions that don't follow the CDC criteria.
Which is exactly why I think we need to do more to make those medical exemptions more accessible to the students who really need them. The issue is that, and I don't serve on the Public Health Committee, but the testimony has been going for 22 hours, and I watched quite a bit of it. Many of the students, not all, there are those who have religious exemptions, but many of the parents who were testifying did not raise religious objections to vaccines. Their concerns were fundamentally medical. They were worried about the implications for their students and for their children, and they weren't able to get that medical exemption because it is too stringent. So let's put in this legislation, if it passes, language that makes it a little bit easier. But I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
It's just not a legislative issue. The doctors are going to respond to the CDC and the CDC only. They don't care what the law states because their license goes under review by the medical board, not by the state of Connecticut.
That's correct.
In addition to that, I saw the 21 hours of testimony. I'm glad you usually only have to stay there until 1 a.m. I was there until 8 a.m., 24 hours. And there were concerns about the constitutionality of this bill. There were religious leaders that spoke against this bill. There were parents of healthy, vaccinated children against this bill. There were parents who were afraid that they're going to have to move their children away. My children actually do have exemptions that are medical. I believe that a lot of the people who have religious exemptions do truly have those beliefs, as can be seen by the fact that the highest rates are in Christian schools. Those are where parents are using the religious exemptions because they're concerned about the aborted fetal cells in vaccines. So it's not just overuse by medical concerns. That is a small portion.
Yeah.
I children in chemistry and in all and one with 9
Are you going to pay for that?
Okay.
And I certainly understand where you're coming from. I thank you for being here and sharing that story. I'll just I want to add one thing, and that's that I received a whole bunch of emails from folks who couldn't come and testify because of their autoimmune deficiencies, and they weren't vaccinated. And I said, hey, it would be great if you could. I don't serve on the Public Health Committee, but I really think they need your perspective. It'd be great if you could come up this past Wednesday. They said, I literally can't get in the room. Unfortunately, it is unsafe for me to be around that high concentration of unvaccinated people.
Unvaccinated children are not disease carriers. They do not carry disease. I'm pretty sure that this room has lots of adults that have not received all of their boosters, and I don't think everybody is scared of one another here. They are all here.
Okay, I'm not a doctor.
Exactly.
No, I guarantee
Exactly. He's not a doctor. Oh boy, I gotta get back over here.
14 years.
So exactly. Yeah, let me stop this here. So yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. He's not a doctor. Oops, no, wait, I don't want that. Oh boy, no, he's got that. Okay, oops. Okay, let me just close this out here.
I'm live, so I can't.
Okay, here we go. Sorry about that, guys. So that's exactly it. Will Haskell is not a doctor. Well, that's the smartest thing that he's ever said. But did you hear how he was promoting discrimination? I find that just outrageous. That was a senator. Senator Will Haskell is saying that people didn't come to testify for HB 5044 because they were afraid of the children who are unvaccinated there. That rhetoric is exceptionally dangerous, and he should make an apology to the children and to the families that were there, that waited hours and hours and hours to testify, the longest hearing in Connecticut's history. How dare he discriminate against the constituents of Connecticut? How dare Senator Will Haskell discriminate against children? Children. So that's a real fundamental problem that we're fighting. That is why it is fundamental that this bill dies in committee. We cannot afford this kind of discrimination against children. No, Senator Will Haskell, people were not afraid to come testify because the children are unvaccinated. This is nonsensical. First of all, there is no scientific proof that any vaccine, any child who is healthy spreads disease. No scientific basis in that at all. Period. That is outrageous that he would say something like that. And I think we as citizens of this state, we as citizens of this country, we need to stop this type of discrimination in its tracks. This is setting us back oodles and oodles of time from accusing the movement of being about white privileged women, which is nonsensical and insulting, to saying that unvaccinated children are somehow a disease threat and scared people from coming out to testify at the Capitol. In fact, it was so bad at one point. Everything went pretty good. I don't want to make it extreme or exaggerate stuff. Everything went really good in Connecticut. But there were a few things that happened that should be called to attention, and we should look at that and we should point our finger at it and we should say that's not acceptable. But they were handing out face masks in the cafeteria and said to some of the people there testifying and the people eating in the cafeteria, they may not need these masks as they're not vaccinated. First of all, many of the people in this movement have vaccinated their children and have suffered injury. And that is why they are part of the movement. There are people who vaccinate by choice, who don't have injured children, but do not believe that the government should have a right to decide what goes into your body. Period. And they're there. So to promote this discrimination is unbelievable. And I have to say to myself, what the hell happened to the Democratic Party to do such a thing? Because it's outrageous and unacceptable behavior. So,
I'd like to make a few comments.
Yeah,
if
please
you will,
do.
Please. So my first question would be, regarding his multiple emails, the many emails that he received that had expressed that concern to him. Now, did that same concern stop them from putting in a written testimony? Because as I looked through the written testimonies, they were dominantly opposed to the bill. So I didn't see all those concerned that they couldn't come to the Capitol, but did it stop them from making a written testimony as well? Did he encourage them that way? Because they weren't there, so I wonder if he's actually being honest. I have to question the honesty that he's just not throwing that out there. Maybe he got one email, but to say he was flooded with emails that raise this concern, I question the honesty to that. And the other thing I would say is the thing we started the show off with, what about what John Hopkins recommends? What about that?
Let me pull this up as you talk about it. Go ahead. What about that?
What about the fact that they are recommending that if you've been vaccinated by a live virus that you stay away from the immunocompromised? Do they have any kind of system set up that is going to quarantine those folks that got the live virus vaccine and keep them because they are going to be potentially spreading disease? I believe the answer is no. So why is there a disconnect here with senators like Will Haskell and Liz Linehan? We heard her talking about it, and all these legislators that are pro for this bill, pushing for it. Why are they refusing to acknowledge that?
Yeah, good question. Why are they refusing to acknowledge these very valid questions? That's really good point. Good point, Mr. Sparks. So you can go and you can look at the testimony. You can just visit our Connecticut General website, Connecticut General Assembly website, cga.org. It's very simple. You type it in there and you can go into public health and you can read all of the testimonies yourself. It's part of the public record. So tomorrow they are voting on the bill. We hope the bill dies in committee. Please arrive around 9:30. Get there early if you want to park. We are very blessed to have the State House that we do. Everybody is welcome into the State House. You just have to go through security. If you have children, children are welcome in the State House. It's our house. And I will say this about Connecticut. Shout out to our state, that these certain fundamental things are still honored and respected. So I guess as the Constitution state, that's an important thing. So we want to maintain that, and we want this bill to die because it is extremely unconstitutional. So we're going to wrap it up, but I want one more video I want to show you because this is a perspective that not many people have brought up. And I commend this father for coming up and bringing this up. I commend him because he didn't have to. He's a homeschooler, although they will go after the homeschoolers too, just saying. But he came up to testify. And I'm just going to play his testimony because he brings a new perspective into it about many folks are vegan. And so let's take a look at that perspective for a vegan family. Let's just watch this.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Brendan Grant and I live in Killingly, Connecticut. I am in firm opposition to HB 5044. The right to peaceably practice one's faith is the most fundamental pillar of freedom in this nation, and according to Connecticut state law, I do not need to identify myself with any organized religion. My faith and spirituality are my own to keep. I believe I'm going to touch upon a subject that has yet to be talked about today. My wife and 3 children and I are passionate vegans. We support an ecologically sustainable future for this planet. We believe that a plant-based organic diet is the healthiest way for us to eat. We do not support animal cruelty or factory farming. This has been an enlightening journey for us over the last few years. We have found ourselves spiritually reconnected with nature, and our moral compass has never felt stronger. This is our creed, our set of beliefs which guide our actions and decisions. We do not consume animal products of any kind, and that includes animal products contained within vaccines. There is no such thing as a vegan vaccine. This is not an abuse of the religious exemption. This is an application of our right to peacefully exercise our faith. If the state treats this in any other way, then it is discrimination against our First Amendment rights. Why should vegans be discriminated against when it comes to vaccines? Veganism is one of the fastest growing movements on the planet. It's not going anywhere. This bill not only promotes discrimination, it also promotes segregation, invasion of privacy, and an erosion of our most basic and essential rights as humans and American citizens to religion and education. This bill is drastically and dangerously short-sighted, and there is no substantiation for its existence. I testify on behalf of my family to say that we do not consent to this medical tyranny that is being fueled by a corrupt and criminally convicted industry that lacks all sense of transparency and liability for its vaccines that the state is trying to mandate to our children. If you compromise the Bill of Rights, then you dissolve the very foundation upon which the Union stands. The preservation of individual liberty should never be trampled or outweighed by political interests, media propaganda following pharma's narrative, unlawful censorship, and forced compliance. My wife and I already homeschool our children, but we are here today with our children in solidarity and support for everyone here who is also in opposition. Because if you pass this bill, then who suddenly becomes the next health threat? Homeschoolers? Adults? I will finish by stating that there is no public health emergency in Connecticut. The only emergency that needs to be addressed is the attempt to dismantle our constitutional rights. I urge this committee to please stop this bill and to preserve the integrity of the Constitution that you swore an oath to protect when you took office in our proud state. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
So there's so many different perspectives here about this bill, and we want to see it die in committee tomorrow. So arrive at the Capitol at 9:30. We'll be there, and you can be inside. You're not going to be stuck outside. And please come, bring your children, and let's kill this bill. Any last words, Mr. Sparks?
Well, I think he touched on one thing that I was thinking about, and there was another testimony from, I think it was an attorney. I'm not sure if it was Kevin Berry or not, but was pointing out how that with the repeal of the religious exemption, that the state was having to educate these people and bringing in occupational therapists into public libraries and things of that nature, which that makes no sense at all. You're putting they're in the public, so how on earth is, by keeping them out of school, any different than having them in a public library?
Yeah. There's so many discrepancies in that. What difference does it make? Because eventually what they're going to do is go check out Healthy People 2020. It's really interesting to read that and what the plan is for vaccines and adult mandates that are eventually something that they would like. So I don't want to get all into that because we've been live now for a bit, and we got a lot of work to do to get ready for tomorrow. So we're going to sign out. We'll see you tomorrow in Hartford, 300 Capitol Avenue. People will be gathering around 9:30. I always recommend getting there early. You get the best parking spot that way. Maybe I shouldn't tell you guys that. I'm not going to be able to park. No, I want everybody to come early, especially with young children. If you want to get a good parking spot, it's easy to do that. You can park right in the LLB if there are spaces available. So the earlier the better, but 9:30 is when they're gathering outside to rally. 10 o'clock is the hearing. We're going to gather inside after we are outside for a little bit and come inside and be there. Yeah, we're going to kill this bill. That is our plan. We want it to die in committee. Say a lot of prayers tonight. Visualize it, feel it, breathe it. We're not giving up. And one of the things I have to say is that I'm so thankful for all of the warriors out there fighting, to watch all of these folks staying at the Capitol all night long, to see New Yorkers come in and testify in the middle of the night. It touches my heart and soul that we the people really have the power. So that is just a blessing. So sleep well tonight. Let's meet in Hartford tomorrow, and let's kill this bill. Good night, guys.